What is fall protection? Well, the real art and science of fall protection are work practices when properly planned and applied and practiced can and will eliminate most, if not all, workplace falls and injuries that result from them. Now, what I'm going to show you just a little bit further down are some pictures of some of these different areas, which I hope will be helpful in explaining maybe some of the things that you haven't seen. So here, general requirements. Each employer on the worksite shall be responsible for analyzing the project to detect the fall hazards to employees and shall eliminate the hazards to provide protection against falls to the employee. Now, I will point out to you folks who don't know this that there is a directive by OSHA under their directive area called CPL, which stands for Compliance Directive, CPL 2-0.124, and it was written in 1999, and it has gone through the court and has been found to be a way of interpreting the different kinds of employers by the Seventh Court. And it talks about multi-employer work sites. And I know some folks would like to know what the different kinds of employers are and what are their responsibilities. Well, this gives it to you. And it not only tells you what a multi-employer work site is, but it tells you what a creating employer is, being the person who creates the hazard, the exposing employer, that employer who exposes his employees to the hazards, the correcting employer, who is the one who has the authority to correct it. That could be a number of different employers, including the general contractor and the contractor whose employees are being exposed, and then the controlling employer, which is usually the general contractor, prime contractor, whatever the name is, the person, the contractor who's in charge, and what his responsibilities are. And then there's a whole section there on multiple roles. In order to have a true fall protection plan, as the name implies, you must have a plan. To have no plan is a plan for unforeseen and unrecognized events that lead to serious injury and or death. Okay, here's where we talk about passive and active very quickly. Passive, as the name implies, does not require the person to be protected to do anything to protect themselves from the fall hazard. There are things like scaffolds, there are things like guardrails, safety nets, aerial lifts, scissor lifts, that type of thing. Active, as the name implies, requires the person to wear and engage the fall protection equipment. Now, an active system includes positioning, fall restraint, and fall arrest. All three of those use a harness, a connector, and an anchorage. And they go from positioning, being where you're positioning yourself on a wall, etc., where your fall distance is very limited to 2 feet or less, to fall restraint where you don't fall at all. And then there's fall arrest, which should be the final thing that you decide to do, because it takes a high amount of training and a lot of things have to be pre-planned. For instance, your fall distance, the fact that you're not going to hit something, the fact that the person who's using the fall arrest equipment is in fairly decent physical shape. He doesn't have a heart attack or some other kind of medical problem because of the fall. Because you have a risk, because you are falling, and you're going to fall, free fall, for at least 6 feet. Let's take a look at this. This takes a look at a fall arrest system. And I like to show this little chart because most people think you're going to fall 6 feet. The truth of the matter is, if in fact you have a fixed position which you hook off to, and your fall begins from your feet, because that's where you're falling from. You're going to have the 6-foot lanyard. Then you're going to have your deacceleration device, shock absorber, whatever you want to call it, which opens 3.5 feet. And then you're going to have the height of the worker. In this case, we've chosen 6 feet. And then you're going to have stretch or elongation, which you have to build into a 3-foot safety factor, which gives you an 18.5-foot fall with that particular system from where you are. So if you're standing on a 10-foot platform and you hook up this system, you're going to hit the ground. And can you do something different? You can do a lot of things different. But this is an example where somebody has a harness and a fall arrest system and doesn't understand how it works and how it's put together. This is where a lot of people get in a lot of trouble. Here are some other calculations for other items. I showed you the 18.5 foot on the left, and you can go to a 14.5 foot on the right, because of the fact that you're using a retractable lifeline or a yo-yo, whatever you want to call it, and you're going to have a 2-foot fall potentially, and then you're going to have another 3.5 foot fall if you open the shock absorber. Now, if you don't use the shock absorber in there, you can take off 3.5 feet because some retractables have a built-in shock absorber. And so that limits your fall even less, and then you're going to have your 3-foot potential elongation or safety factor. That just gives you a couple of different ways that this can be done. One of the ways that allows you to have a pretty long free fall, as an example, is to have a nylon rope with a rope grab on it, which you attach into with a 6-foot lanyard. And then depending upon how far down you are and where that rope grab is placed, and at what angle you're at, you have all kinds of potential problems. You can have a swing fall, which would give you a pendulum effect. You can have the stretch of a 50-foot nylon line above you, which is substantial, plus the fact if you don't have that rope grab positioned above you, but at your waist or even at your feet, the fall can go anywhere you want it to go. It can go up to 25, 30 feet that you end up falling before you're arrested. So you need to know what it is. You need to know how to wear it. You need to know how to use it. And if you don't, this is not the piece of equipment you should be utilizing.